the technical aspects of our integrations to a new EHR, it's a month of work, and it's 5 hours for the health system IT team. It's very lightweight, and that's because it's a FHIR-based integration model.
Efficiency Unlocked is hosted by two tech-savvy physicians and dear friends of mine, Drs. Adam Carew and Dale Gold, who are experts in using technology to automate routine tasks and increase efficiency in everyday and business life. Let's see what they have for us today.
I think our biggest differentiator is the ability to effectively predict the information most relevant for a particular clinician to know about a particular patient.
That's our guest this week, CEO and co-founder of Wellsheet, Craig Limoli. Craig founded Wellsheet to supercharge clinical workforce productivity by transforming the EHR experience with AI-driven workflows.
A lot of context. That takes we need to know the clinician's obviously role and specialty. We need to know their practice patterns and how they interact with our solution. Over time, we learn about what they like to see and when, and we've accumulated through the millions of different interactions with our application, all of this proprietary data that informs, for this type of clinician treating this type of patient, this is the most relevant information to show.
While Craig was at IBM Watson Health, he saw the deficiencies in the technologies clinicians depended on for care delivery and the severe frustration they caused. And he felt compelled to help address these problems by leveraging advancements in AI to radically improve the efficiency of clinical workflows. We hope you enjoy this conversation with this amazing innovator. Stay tuned for this series of episodes where we'll be discussing the game-changing impact of AI in the realm of patient care and physician well-being.
Get ready to unlock efficiency with NerdMDs.
Efficiency Unlocked. Welcome to this week's episode of NerdMD's Efficiency Unlocked. As you just heard our guest introduction, I'm pleased to have Craig here today from Wellsheet, and we're going to get to know a little bit about him, the product, a little bit under the hood, and then some fun questions at the end that we always like to wrap up with the Nerd Alert round. So, Craig, welcome to the show. Good to see you.
Thanks so much, Adam. Excited to be here.
Yeah, and we can see each other just for the audio listeners. Craig, why don't we, kick off right in the beginning? We'd love to hear about you and kind of your story. And I know you because you and I have been talking for really probably the last several years in one way, shape, or form. But tell us a little bit about yourself, like the why and really what led you to create Wellsheet.
Yeah, so I founded Wellsheet after working at IBM in their Watson Health division. So that's where I saw the immense frustration that clinicians had with existing technologies. And it was just really inspiring to me to try to solve some of these problems that were so severe for these clinicians and arguably the most important function in our society for them to have to deal with such antiquated technologies and user experiences. This is something that I just felt compelled to solve. And so I left IBM. I actually lined up my MBA at Wharton, studying healthcare management there. And that's where I got the company off the ground. That was actually the plan for my MBA from day one, was to start a company to solve problems that I saw at IBM. And was really exciting to get kind of initial traction and investment and early customers. And I ended up leaving the MBA program to pursue the company full time, and that was about 8 years ago. We've had an incredible journey since then. Lots of ups and downs and curveballs, COVID included. But it's been so rewarding to see the impact that the technology has had for clinicians using it across the country, and really actually delivering on addressing those pain points that I saw while I was at IBM that were just really palpable for these clinicians, the frustration that they were facing with existing technologies. It's just incredible to see the progress that we've made, and that progress has really accelerated, especially in the past year or two. So it's just incredible to see the impact we're having for our clinician users, and just super excited about the future and where that's taking us.
That's awesome. I'm trying to remember like how long ago it was that we first talked. I mean, I don't know. I mean, was it 3-4 years ago or more? I feel like with COVID in the middle, it's like it throws off all my ability to estimate times. But I know it was a while ago. And, I think I want you to talk more about what this is, but I think the way I'd frame this up is, I think there's 4 big buckets that physicians and clinicians have to deal with in their day-to-day work. And one of those is where you guys are really tackling it, like kind of in that review kind of piece. So like clinical review and, people that aren't in medicine, like that's like sifting through the chart, essentially looking for the information you need to be able to help you make a decision on a patient. And then, then there's like obviously ordering, there's note writing, and then there's in basket. I was like, what's the fourth? It's like, oh, then there's the in basket, which is like your email in basket, but everything else that comes there digitally. So those are like the 4 quadrants that I always like to frame, at least around. And, nobody's doing all 4 of those like perfect. And granted, each of those quartiles has like more than enough opportunity to improve dramatically. So is it fair to say that that's where you were really kind of first tackling, right? Was that review kind of quartile, right?
Exactly right. Yeah. The reason we're called Wellsheet is that originally the premise was to put all the information a clinician needs on one sheet. And eliminate the need to click through these dozens of different screens to assemble that information to be able to make treatment decisions. So chart review has always kind of been our bread and butter in terms of surfacing the most relevant information for a particular clinician to know about a particular patient. And sorting through all of the data that's in the chart or available that's pertinent to that physician or other clinician's decision-making process, and really highlighting the most salient factors for them to effectively make those treatment decisions and take actions accordingly. And this is one of we would argue this is the most important part of the clinical workflow, as well as one of the most challenging problems to solve, because it is very complicated. There's a ton of data that clinicians need to interact with to be able to actually conduct that part of their workflow. And so we've had to really build a very sophisticated, application and especially in the back end, to process all of this data and surface it in a way that saves clinicians time. So that's kind of the core of what we do. And then we've had the opportunity to tackle a number of other workflows that clinicians really needed help with, around care team collaboration and handoff and notifications and mobile experience. There's been a lot of opportunity to address problems along the way that are all very complementary and fit kind of seamlessly into a cohesive solution with this kind of core predictive chart review capability.
Yeah, no, I love that. It made me think. We had a previous guest and company on, and they made a statement that when like a clinician is like actually like making a decision for something, and which requires that kind of chart review and everything, that really they're probably only scratching the surface of the amount of data that they could potentially see or take into account. So yeah, what you just described as like that original core kind of product is really kind of solving that. And I guess, and you mentioned this was 8 years ago, right? When this like kind of started. So, I mean, this is way before what has happened in the last few years, where everyone and everything is is talking about, oh, we can do this and that now with all this crazy artificial intelligence. I mean, so you guys were really tackling this pretty early on, and frankly solving it, I think, for a lot of folks. And then I think the second point I want to double click on was what you just said at the end. You said, because once I think your customers work on your platform and they find value, they're going to notice those little kind of complementary things to say, hey, Wellsheet, can you also put this kind of stuff in? And I definitely wanted to jump into like the most kind of current stuff you guys are doing too. But what I think you've done a great job explaining, obviously, the company, the product, and what you're really kind of trying to solve. But where do you guys see yourself as being kind of that true differentiator in the sea of space in this particular problem that you're trying to solve?
Yeah, so I think our biggest differentiator is the ability to effectively predict the information most relevant for a particular clinician to know about a particular patient. And that takes a lot of context. That takes we need to know the clinician's obviously role and specialty. We need to know their practice patterns and how they interact with our solution over time. We learn about what they like to see and when, and we've accumulated through the millions of different interactions with our application, all of this proprietary data that informs, for this type of clinician treating this type of patient, this is the most relevant information to show. As well as, of course, the patient's clinical profile, their reason for visit, set of diagnoses, set of medications, all of that informs the most relevant content to highlight in that particular context. And so that's really our strongest differentiator is the ability to predict what that information is. And as you alluded to just before, that information, in kind of current state workflows, all the clinician tends to look at is the EHR, right? But that is a subset of what they could be looking at. And even within the EHR, this information is strewn across many, many different screens. And so it's unrealistic to expect them to hunt down all of that data. But then also beyond the EHR, you have external data, you have HIE information, health information exchange, you have clinical content, practice guidelines and the like that help inform how different conditions should be treated, all of which is really important for the clinician to understand as they're arriving at their treatment decisions. And so Wellsheet has access to all of that data and is able to prioritize what matters most to really inform those treatment decisions. And the other thing you alluded to is obviously the advancements in generative AI and large language models, which are really transforming how effective we are being at doing that prioritization, surfacing the right data, and effectuating these more efficient clinical workflows for our end users. So it's just been an incredibly exciting 18 to 24 months of implementing those types of features throughout our product, and the impact has been really phenomenal.
No, that's cool. And I think I like to go back to like the first moment that, I tried like ChatGPT as just a consumer. I mean, what was the moment for you guys, or you even, when you kind of caught wind of that and realized quickly, like, wow, we need to get this type of technology into our package, to augment it. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah. It's a great question. It's like, where were you, when you first experienced ChatGPT? For us, the very first sliver, one of the uses for Wellsheet that has been incredibly popular with our users is handoff. So this is a process that's really challenging and really important. It has a huge impact on the quality of care delivery. This is where most of the time there are issues in care delivery is around handing off from one clinician to another. Those multidisciplinary care team coordination across stakeholders. That's incredibly important to get right to deliver high quality care in an efficient manner. And Wellsheet has a really user-friendly handoff tool that uses this more efficient chart review, access to all of this data on the patient to help inform the handoff itself. So you have both kind of the plan of care and the pertinent clinical data all in one place to be able to coordinate across these different stakeholders. And it's something that, oftentimes is done on paper or in a Word doc in hospital settings. So having all of that data up to date to the second is incredibly meaningful with a solution like ours. And what we found was it's still, even with all of these conveniences that we've brought to users, which are far better than the alternative that clinicians tend to currently be using, it's still painful, right? You still have to write the note. You still have to translate those clinical data points into your summary plan of care to share across the care team in these handoff fields, and having a large language model automatically convert those data elements into that free text is incredibly time saving. And the beautiful thing is that the way that Wellsheet displays this data side by side with that text-based summary, you have all of the source data right there. So it is very easy for you to say, I approve of that summary, and actually confirm that for the rest of the care team to be able to review from there.
I love it. That's that whole check and verify thing, which we hear, with all the different, obviously any kind of artificial intelligent platform, there's got to still be that step point. And the products that have that are the ones that gain more trust, in the clinicians that are using them. And no, super, super cool. I mean, such a serendipitous way for a technology to come along that just super augmented what you guys already had this solid foundation in. And it's funny when you were talking about handoffs, I haven't worked in a hospital since I was a resident, which was, about 13, 14 years ago now. But I mean, we had an Excel sheet. I mean, that was our thing. And then, eventually Epic had some little things you could kind of customize or jerry rig, but it was still a typed out, two-liner of what that next resident that was coming on that needed. So no, super, super cool. I love that. Can we dive into, well, I guess, no, before I do that, I mean, I think it needs to be clear, you're not a clinician, right? I mean, how, because the way you just explained all of this, and that's why I think the first time I met you, I was fascinated. And I'm always fascinated by people I've worked with over my career that are involved in healthcare in some way, either internal in the organization or, through a company. And I don't know what it is, but there's some sort of special awareness that people will have that are not trained in healthcare, but get it. And have you always been like that? Or was that something that came from working at IBM? We're kind of going back to a little bit about you, but I wanted to go back to that.
Yeah. So I will say I spent a lot of time around doctors in my day to day. So I pick up a bit on the the parlance and kind of how they think through things diagnostically. But I do think it was something that I was originally exposed to while I was at IBM, working with clinicians. I was responsible for rolling out technologies driven by Watson to health systems. So I was on the ground interacting with physicians, nursing, understanding their problems, really trying to sympathize with them and ensure that the solutions that IBM was bringing to bear would be able to address those needs. And the reason why I ended up starting Wellsheet was that we really didn't have the right solutions for their needs. And so that was really the inception of my appreciation for what they're going through. And, ever since then, we've been just living in it, right? And I think the other differentiation we have as a company is that we spend so much time with users. I mean, even in the very early days of the company, we were on site in a hospital, side by side with physicians, developing the product, 3 days a week, in the hospital, getting their feedback, incorporating that into the product. They would see the next day that their suggestions were implemented, and it was just a really symbiotic engagement from very early on that we were fortunate to have. And that's something that's been a superpower for us, that's enabled us to beat, some of the largest technology companies out there in this space, outperform them really, really substantially, and earn the business of the largest health systems in the country that had put us up against these big tech companies side by side.
No, super cool. I mean, let's dive into like a little bit more kind of detail, I guess, kind of like under the hood type of concept. But like, you guys integrate into, the major EHRs, right? I mean, how many have you integrated in with so far?
3 main ones. So that's Epic, Cerner, and Athena Health.
Okay, which those occupy a large percentage. And you guys are doing Wellsheet. It's both in inpatient, and it's also an ambulatory too. That's correct?
That's correct. Okay. Yeah, it's an enterprise solution. It's used in the inpatient setting, outpatient setting. It's used by physicians, nursing, case managers, pharmacy. It's really broadly applicable, which is another pretty unique characteristic of our solution. It's not just a subset of users that gain benefit. Really, anyone who's accessing patient charts on a regular basis gains benefit from our product.
Yeah, no, that makes amazing sense. And that's, I mean, any type of product that can scale out and start to affect the other folks on the healthcare team is like a win, right? I mean, that's key. So can you talk a little bit about kind of into some of the, not like the hardcore coding things, but like just like the details of like what it takes to get integrated? Because I mean, I'll tell you, my pet peeve throughout my whole career has always been a vendor that goes, oh, we're new and we have this greatest tool and we integrate into Epic and it's like super fast. And I'm always kind of like, in the beginning, I'd be like, oh, this is great. And I do know you guys actually do integrate very well into the workflow, but do you mind kind of explaining a little bit about that, how it does kind of get baked in and that kind of workflow map and how it makes it seamless and easy?
Yeah. And I do think that it is something that technology companies often underestimate, both the importance of and the complexity that goes into these integrations, especially for a solution like ours that touches every part of the patient chart. It's incredibly complicated doing these integrations well and doing it in such a way that you can deploy quickly from one health system to another. There are ways you can integrate that are very functional, but then when you try to scale it to the next health system, you have to start from scratch.
Start all over again. Yeah.
And we have, from day one, invested in these open standard API-based integration models that have enabled us to have these an integration that can really be deployed quickly. Now, the downside of that is that in order to integrate that way, you have to develop a really sophisticated mechanism for ingesting that data and doing so with a appropriate synchronization pattern that enables a performant end user experience, because no load time or wait time is acceptable to a physician. I can speak from experience on that one. They will not tolerate any delays. And so we have invested very heavily in creating the synchronization infrastructure. And that's really, what has taken the years and years of development, is to get that right. And now, we get a incredibly snappy experience for the end user, but also a incredibly fast deployment timeline. The technical aspects of our integrations to a new EHR, it's a month of work, and it's 5 hours for the health system IT team. It's very lightweight, and that's because it's a FHIR-based integration model. So there is consistent APIs that we can rely on from one health system to the next, that the federal government has ensured that all health systems have available. And those APIs are especially challenging to work with. And so that makes it that much more important that you have investment in this kind of robust infrastructure for ingesting that data. And that's become a real core competency of our company, and a platform from which we can build on top of to then leverage, cutting edge technologies like generative AI much more effectively, because we have all of that data and the users are accessing all of that data through our solution. And so, when you do a summarization, having all of that data right there for the user is incredibly important and powerful to build trust, as you alluded to earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you just said right there, the way I think it's worth repeating, because I think as someone that doesn't understand like how software can be developed or worked, I mean, what you're describing is the equivalent of, you could be using like Wellsheet, or really just imagine any sort of software on your computer or whatever, and the next day when you log in, it's like your software didn't do an update or anything. You just got like a new feature, like that's really obvious and in front of you and can be explained. I mean, that's like what you're describing, but it's all because of that kind of core backend system that you've developed, which, I mean, I think that's key to like have success with this, because then you can deploy those simple things. And I feel like there's more software now, like this is getting into the consumer side of things, but I have seen like more software now that's like doing those things, like where all of a sudden I'll be like, like that button looks different. And sometimes you have to like refresh it or do something, to like get the new stuff. But the days of like re-downloading like a whole package, re-executing the package, like that's just, I don't know. I think that's a bygone. And I think the other thing that's really worth mentioning, what you just said, which I think is like this misconception out there with the EHRs. They think the EHRs are holding on to like patients' data, and I mean, Epic just announced this week, in the news that they're going to allow consumer kind of apps to digest that information, with the appropriate patient approval. And I just I don't know, I think it's worth mentioning that, because I don't know, I think there's like a misconception out there, like not that it's easy to do this, and you've clearly explained that, but that these EHR vendors, they're kind of regulated to do it, but they also do provide a tremendous amount of ingestible APIs, to get at the data that you need as a separate company to serve up. So I just wanted to call that out.
Yeah. I mean, every company that has enabled these platforms where third parties can come in and innovate and solve problems for their clients, and they get a cut, right? I mean, they get some percentage of the revenue that's generated from that, and at the same time, they get happy customers, right? And retention, and they compete better in the marketplace. And so, that's something that every successful technology company, every successful platform company has really prioritized is creating these ecosystems around their solution. That leverages the power of third-party innovators to come in and solve problems for their customers, and that's a win-win-win if done successfully. And I think, when we first started Wellsheet, it wasn't there, right? This is something that was very nascent at the time. And we made a bet on it, right? We said, you know what, this is needed. APIs are the way every other industry integrates systems. This is a huge need for the industry. And we're going to invest in it from day one. And fortunately, the EHR vendors have come a really long way, and these APIs are really robust now. And our health system clients, numerous of them have said, we are not integrating any technology any other way, right? This is the only way we're doing it moving forward. And I think that's just going to be the case, down the line, is that this will be the way that these technologies are integrated pretty much universally.
Yeah. Well played, I would say, from your standpoint. And I hope it's really, I hope you really are able to.
Than we had hoped or anticipated, but
yeah, it was like, you can't see my hand, but it was like probably this, and then finally now it's like starting to take off, which is cool. Well, I mean, I like our guests to be able to share any type of data that they have, for either satisfaction data or something else that has been kind of really meaningful for them as a founder or as a company. Do you have anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have health systems that report 94% of clinicians recommend Wellsheet for chart review. We have health systems reporting 50% reductions in chart review time, 40% reductions in time in the EHR. So huge satisfaction benefits, huge efficiency benefits, but also real impact to operational efficiency for hospitals as well. So we have health system clients that report reductions in length of stay of about a day as a result of implementing Wellsheet. Part of a broader operational efficiency program, but a key part of it. And this is millions of dollars. The health systems talk about millions of dollars of ROI impact resulting from this type of technology. And that gets back to kind of these use cases beyond just the chart review, but also the handoffs being much more efficient and effective, the real-time notifications for new results, so you don't have to keep checking the EHR to see if a lab has resulted or a consult has completed. You can get a push notification right away as soon as that data is available. Just ensuring that the whole care team is on the same page about the discharge plan and the tasks that need to occur, that you can manage in Wellsheet. And then we see health systems that kind of build meetings around the functionality in Wellsheet, where they have recurring multidisciplinary team-based discussions where they put Wellsheet up on the projector and walk through patient by patient. Okay, X, Y, and Z needs to happen for this patient. Let's put that plan of care into Wellsheet and then track those action items from there on out. And so it's really become much more so than I think we had ever anticipated, a kind of core piece of the operational methodology that hospitals have around managing their patient populations in a way that reduces the delays in care and is able to enable patients to get home where they want to be more quickly and efficiently in many cases.
Yeah. Super, super cool. I think the title of this episode is Trustworthy Scalability and AI ROI. And obviously that what we've talked about so far, we've touched on little pieces of that, but I want to make sure you get a chance to, you definitely touched on the scalability part. We talked about that well, like the core foundation of the back end of your product is that. And then you've touched on the trustability part too, right? Because this was all built before kind of generative AI things, which have inherent kind of trustability issues just by the nature of them. But yeah, and then obviously ROI. I mean, like obviously any health system, like if they're going to buy a product, they need to know kind of what can they get out of it. And you mentioned several, kind of statistics from different health systems. But yeah, what else would you like to add around that trustability, scalability, or ROI piece?
Yeah. So on this, let me touch on each of them actually.
Sure.
From a trustability perspective, the way that we are leveraging AI is mostly around taking these salient pieces of data that we're already displaying to the clinician and pulling out key information to highlight to the user in text form. So this is discrete data that we're summarizing and creating summaries for a particular patient, but also pulling segments of notes, right? So the most important sections and highlighting that to end users with the source notes right there as well for the end user to be able to see where that data came from. We're moving more and more into opportunities to actually generate documentation and discharge plans and be able to accelerate those workflows as well, which we're very excited about. That's some of the kind of near-term roadmap. And all of that is much more trustable when you have the full set of patient data available in Wellsheet. But also increasingly, the content from third parties, such as clinical practice guidelines that we can bring in and surface when relevant to ensure that treatment decisions are informed by best practices and what has been kind of established in the industry as the best protocols for different conditions. From a scalability perspective, we have health systems that have deployed Wellsheet to, a single region, and let's say they have dozens of states across the country that they have hospitals in, over 100 hospitals across these different states, and they have pockets of solutions in each of these regions. But when they deployed Wellsheet to a specific region, they realized that this is something that they could scale throughout their whole system. It was so lightweight to deploy. And so as they think about rolling it out to these different regions, that cost is exponential, right? Because each of those regions has its own implementation complexity. But because Wellsheet's so easy to implement, that was a decision they were able to really get behind. And now they're seeing the benefit of they have a real enterprise solution that can work across all of these different settings. And so some of these point solutions that they had here and there, become less necessary over time. So that gets to ROI where you actually have a solution that is really broadly addressing a wide swath of clinical challenges. And for a large, complex health system like that, having this enterprise user interface that is consistent across all of these different settings also really reduces overhead, right? Because now when you want to implement some sort of clinical improvement program, instead of having to build that into a bunch of different EHRs, in a bunch of different regions, you can do that once within Wellsheet and have that be proliferated across your system really effectively. So that's been really powerful for large, complex conglomerate health systems that using Wellsheet. And then on the ROI front. The length of stay benefits I mentioned have been really pronounced, and that's something we've seen time and again for the health systems that have deployed Wellsheet in the inpatient setting and used it across these different groups. The hospitalist residents, case managers, as well as medical specialties, having a broad set of users that collaborate within one space in Wellsheet has real impact. So that's a big one. There's also a lot of more anecdotal evidence around impact to quality of care and clinical outcomes that we hear frequently. I mean, we have it's not uncommon for us to have physicians reach out to us saying, this notification or this surfacing of the right data within Wellsheet really helped with a life-saving intervention for patients. And that is incredibly inspiring to hear that feedback from our clinicians using the product. Take all that taken together, it's a lightweight solution for the health system, so it's low investment. It has a very substantial impact on clinician experience, patient experience, clinician efficiency, and ultimately, patient throughput and care quality. So this is something that health systems, I think, really appreciate those benefits, but it also accrues to end users and patients as well. So it's I think a rare solution that addresses those different stakeholders effectively.
Yeah, no, super cool summary of like what we kind of talked about so far, and then bringing those kind of three main kind of themes together. If someone's listening to this now, what's the best way they could reach out to you guys? Is it to go to what's your website, or what's the path for someone to reach out?
Yeah, it's just wellsheet.com. Anybody's welcome to reach out to me directly at craig.limoli@wellsheet.com as well. So happy to take any questions on what we're doing at Wellsheet. I also wanted to call out one more use case that we're seeing more and more of, which is EHR transitions. So when you have a health system that's moving from one EHR to another, having a consistent user experience that clinicians can access before and after that transition occurs has tremendous benefits. It reduces the productivity losses associated with the transition because the users have a familiar home base. And Wellsheet works exactly the same, whether it's Epic, Cerner, Athena. It's the exact same user experience, exact same set of functionality. And so when you're going through that migration, and there's some really large health systems that are moving from one EHR to another, having a unified user experience really helps to reduce the productivity losses, increase the acceptance of the new system, from day one, because clinicians get those benefits right away. And it just makes the process more efficient and effective in the various health systems that we've seen go through this. So that's something that we're seeing more and more of in our client base that we've supported really effectively in the past.
No, it's a great point. I just saw today on Becker's, it said another 17 health systems are changing to Epic, and it was this list. And that's tough. If you're someone that's worked in any system and it's changing, it's hard enough when you change a job, but like your own core system, which, where all the doors and the offices and the elevators are, but you don't, your primary, device that you're piloting throughout the day, the computer, is if that changes, it really throws off. So no, super cool. So let's pivot to the nerd alert round, because I want to find out a little bit more about you. And I'll start these in a sequence where they're a little bit, I'd say, easy, like it's an and or kind of question, and then we'll get into some others down the road. See how many we can get here in the next 10 minutes. You good? You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Number one, is your mobile phone always with you, or do you put it on a shelf?
Always with me.
Fair enough. Me too. This is a food one. A burger or a big salad?
A burger, or both.
Okay. Yeah, or both. You could lead, right? You could. Good. All right. Do you have a favorite movie? And if you do, why is it your favorite?
I love Gladiator, the original.
Yeah.
It came out when I was young, and just I think it's an inspiring. I associate a little bit, honestly. This is a tough industry, right? I mean, this is something where you need to be prepared to fight every day to succeed. And so that's something that I try to live by that a little bit.
Sweet. That's awesome. Yeah, Craig the Gladiator. I love it. What would you be doing if you weren't CEOing Wellsheet? I
would be founding another company to solve another problem. I think I think this is just what I am geared to do at this time. So
love it. I'm sure you even have other ideas that are probably in the back of your mind as well.
On our plates, but yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, what is like a skill that you wish you could master, but you're not good at right now?
Oh, that is a good one. It's interesting. I am a natural introvert. And I have, really cultivated the extroversion as is required for this type of role. And so I've picked up on, a lot of the kind of behavioral, ways of operating that create success, and a lot of that is sales, right? And figuring out the right way to sell to health system, which is incredibly complex. But as a CEO, whether it's investors or employees, potential employees, the prospects of the company. This is just day in and day out, and I think it's something where you're kind of constantly honing the craft, and I think I've certainly I think come a long way on it, but there's always more to learn. And from healthcare is an interesting industry in that I think it's all about results, really, and sales in my experience is just about effectively communicating those results, right, and making sure that people know the outcomes that your product is achieving for other comparable clients and environments. So, it's something that, fortunately, we have a lot of evidence for it now. So that makes it easier as well.
It gets easier with time, right? Yeah, it's for sure. All right. So I always ask this question of most of the guests. I think I forgot actually on a few recent recordings, which is weird. So the name of our show is Efficiency Unlocked, and so obviously your product makes a whole host of people more efficient, working in healthcare. But do you have a personal efficiency hack or application or something that you use in kind of your day-to-day that you would like to share with listeners?
Interesting. I think, for me, the efficiency that I kind of seek out on a day-to-day basis is mostly around, collaborating with the team and ensuring that, any potential blockers are addressed for the team. Reducing dependencies, ensuring that people can kind of operate their best at their peak efficiency across the company. I I spend a lot of my time just talking to the team, trying to understand, what challenges they're facing and how we can remove any obstacles. And so, that's really where I'm thinking about efficiency all the time is in terms of, what can we do to unstick anything to advance to the next stage. That's the type of leader that I aspire to be, is really someone who is just making the team achieve at their highest capacity at all times.
Cool. No, super solid advice. That I think any leader out there, no matter what you're leading, whether it's a team of employees and a subset of a company or the CEO, I think that what you just explained is solid advice for anyone at any level. It's also probably parenting advice, right? You want to try and help. That's what you want to do with raising kids. So last question, other than our amazing NerdMDs podcast, do you have a favorite book or podcast or YouTube channel, which I've recently added to this question because some people, that's the way they like to digest information, like my kids. Is there one that you particularly love or could recommend?
I consume a lot of them, honestly. So I really like to stay informed on especially in the industry relevant new updates. I do really like just personally the Acquired podcast. They do a really good job of kind of these long form overviews of company foundings and journeys and how different companies navigated different situations, and they do a really great job. So that's one that I like to always listen to, that I find both entertaining and informative.
Yeah, no, I do too. I love all the Guy Raz podcasts. Like the original one. Which one I'm blanking on the name. How I Built This. That was I think the first one, and now there's a bunch of offshoots of that. They have one recently that we just started listening to, which is where they have a past guest from How I Built This come on, and then it's almost like a radio show. They have 3 very early entrepreneurs that have a company where they have a problem and they kind of pose their problem. And it's really cool because you kind of get 3 How I Built This sort of in one episode, where you get to hear, and they're these little companies, sometimes just a store in a small town, but
cool.
That one's a cool one too. I think based on how you answered that, I think you would love that one too. Well, cool, Craig. It was super fun to catch up with you again, officially as a recording as well. But yeah, do you have any last kind of parting words or anything else that you didn't have an opportunity to say to wrap with?
We have some really exciting things coming soon that we'll be able to talk about later this year. But it's been an incredibly exciting year for us already. There's really been some huge developments as a company, both in terms of broader implementations, new clients, as well as advancements on the product side that have unlocked so much more value for our users and our clients, and some really exciting news that we'll be able to share shortly as well that we're really looking forward to getting out there as soon as we can.
Very cool. I know that type of stuff is probably hard to keep bottled up. No, thank you, Craig, for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time, and hopefully our listeners enjoyed learning about you, and maybe it'll generate a bit more buzz too, and maybe some future customers. So thanks again. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Adam. Always good chatting.
You bet. Thank you for listening to Efficiency Unlocked, Nerd Tested, MD Approved, a NerdMDs podcast by Drs. Adam Carew and Dale Gold.